It's all about going back into the things that you were doing when you were creatively tapped in and passionate. That's really where individuality comes from as well. What lights the fire under your ass? What makes you excited about yourself? Another thing is redefining success. Being in a relationship, managing work, and still finding time for yourself feels like trying to juggle 3 flaming swords at the same time. 3 of swords, hey, if you know, you know. Career burnout is not fun. I lost my passion for everything. How the fuck did I get here? You know, I'm living in LA, living a lot of people's dreams, but why do I not feel excited about it? Why do I not feel gratitude? Why do I feel like this shit is just happening to me and I have no place in it, even though I manifested it? Hey, it's your host, Asha Jailani. Welcome to Gwenny Coded. Hey everyone, welcome to Gwenny Coded. I'm your host, Asha, just your friendly neighborhood 26-year-old trying to figure it all out in the 20th century. This is the very first episode of Gwenny Coded, and I'm so excited to do this. I've always wanted to do a podcast. I've always wanted to dabble and zibble and zabble in the podcast world. So today we're here and we're doing it. And I don't know what to say. Like, this is crazy. I have a fucking mic and I'm in this bed and the camera's recording. Like, I literally manifested this. This shit is fucking nuts. But seriously, if you've been feeling like life at this age is just one big meme, then you're in the right place. Today we're diving into what it really means to be 26 right now, career stress, relationships, dating, financial stability, burnout, beauty, and all the weird self-care trends that TikTok wants us to try. So buckle up or don't. It's gonna be a wild ride, girls. Let's get into it. Let's start with a reality check, shall we? 26 feels like the most confusing age. And I don't even know if it's like confusing. I feel like it's just like, I don't know. Like, we're about to be 30 in 4 years. I'm about to be 27 this year in 2025. We don't have it all together. Things feel like they're falling into place, kind of. And all my friends that are older than me are like 30 or in their 30s or about to be 30. And they're like, yeah, I want to have this and this done. Or it's like people are still figuring it out. I don't know, guys. Like, it's a wild little whirlwind of time. Am I supposed to have my career mapped out, or is it okay to be still figuring it out? I have friends buying houses, building houses, getting married, getting pregnant. Like, the amount of people I saw getting married and pregnant in 2024 is so crazy, and that year was so crazy. So shout out to them for finding joy and love in their life. I also have a boo, but you know, we'll get into that. I just feel like between all of that, I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. I want to be married, I want to have kids. I'm also stressing about the financial and social economic state of the world, but like literally, like that shit literally stresses me out. Like, I'm worried about that. Where are we? You know, where are we? We're 26. We want these things. We're tracking towards these things. We're getting our shit together, but it's like, where do we fall in the midst of all that? You know what I mean? You know, things that I'm knocking off my list are finally canceling my DoorDash and figuring out what the fuck meal prepping even is. That's where I'm at. I also just learned that I'm pre-diabetic, so going to the grocery store stresses me out. I don't know about y'all. I need to also get into a workout routine because I don't work out, and getting into that also stresses me out because I'm seeing all of these different people on the internet and like they're in their workout routine, they're healthy, they're like, yeah, I'm so fucking thick and slick and good. And like that one girl on TikTok that's like, hey Stinks, she's bomb, I love her, but like I'm trying to be like that. Like, I'm trying to be in my fit. But then it's also like the gym is expensive, groceries are expensive, taking care of yourself is expensive. There's so many things to worry about, you know? Let's start with one thing at a time. That's one thing that I learned about therapy last year. I did therapy for like 3 to 4 months. And one of the things that my therapist stressed to me was taking your motherfucking time, right? Take your time, one thing at a time. Slow down. Like, I need to slow down. I'm talking so fast. Let's get into career pressure. I am trying to be better about marketing myself as a creative. I think one of the things as a creative that really just jangles our balls, for so to speak, is marketing. It's like we, as a creative, even if you have a full-time job, because I do have a full-time job, you have to still market yourself. You have to still be putting your work out there, focusing on projects outside of work, like this podcast I'm doing right here. And even though I don't have a lot of money to filter into my own creative moving image projects and film projects, I'm trying to somehow build myself and build my brand using the tools like podcasting or TikTok and social media, tools that are somewhat free, to do that. And I think one of the things in my professional career, I freaking hate the word professional, but getting into LinkedIn, for example, like I don't use LinkedIn at all. And I'm now realizing that LinkedIn is kind of like the Facebook and Instagram for the professional world. That's where we need to be posting our work. We need to be interacting with other creatives, keeping that up to date, because when it comes to jobs and people looking to hire you for certain things, they're going to be looking at your LinkedIn, and if it's dead and only has like your resume, like where's your personality? I'm trying to get better at that, and I encourage everyone else to do that. If you're still on that journey of figuring out the career space and your professionalism and marketing yourself, you're not alone. That's a never-ending cycle, but what's important is finding the routine and getting into making sure that's on your docket and you're putting yourself out there, you're posting your work, you're putting it on LinkedIn, you're putting it on multi-channels. One thing I do want to emphasize, don't feel like you're a late bloomer, because life isn't a race. The shit isn't a race. Being a creative it's not like a linear thing. I really like how there's new platforms popping up like Nova. Nova is kind of like the Instagram, TikTok of LinkedIn. I've actually hired a few people for my full-time job. I think that's like really, really cool, because you can basically just like post your projects on there and keep it pretty straightforward. Like it doesn't have to be like LinkedIn where you have to necessarily comment under someone's work. It's just a portfolio. I really like that tool. Yeah, I think the thing that stresses us out as creatives when it comes to posting our work and marketing ourselves is obviously making money. We need financial stability, especially as young people who are coming out of college and have college debt and dumb ass credit card debt as well. I feel like those kinds of things are really the indicators to lighting a fire under our ass. And obviously when rent is due, like for example, my landlord is always 4 hours into it being the first rent check. Hey Asha, rent check. Hey Asha, rent check. And I'm like, I pay my rent every month on the first. I'm never late. So, sir, why are you harassing me right now? You know what I'm saying? You're going to get your money. So, and we have up to 3 days into the month anyways to pay it. So it's like, bro, like, can you literally get away from me? Like, even when I was packing up to go on this trip, like, guys, I'm in Joshua Tree right now. Like, obviously I don't live in this room, okay? Disclaimer, this is not where I live. I just had to flee because of the LA fires. Like, even when I was packing to come here, he was like, are you moving? Like, I was like in my car about to back out of the driveway. He walks up to my car and he's like, you're not moving out, are you? With like a smug smile on his face. And I was like, no. And he was like, okay, thanks. I'm like, can you just leave? Like, why are you in my face right now? You know, like, why are you here? Why are you in my face, buddy? Get out. You know what I'm saying? Get out of here. Get out of here. You don't need to know what I'm doing. And until you get a move out notice, you don't need to know what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? So what if my car is packed to the rim with laundry and to-go items? Yeah, I'm going to do my laundry in this Airbnb because your laundry room sucks. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like things like, anyways, back to the point. Back to financial realities in our mid-20s, right? So the cost of living, right? Let's start there, is astronomically high, especially in Los Angeles is where I live. I don't even want to talk about that, actually. Like, we all know the cost of living is astronomically high, and figuring out your adulting in this age is like fucking dumb. It's fucking dumb. I feel like 2025 came and everything just shot up. I'm living paycheck to paycheck, hence why I'm doing this podcast. Please support this podcast. And it's insane. You know what I'm saying? It's literally insane. And I'm just trying to live, y'all. I'm just trying to live. Like, I'm just trying to be out here living my life as a creative and enjoying life. Like, I feel like that is the purpose of life, is to not be stressed out about worldly things. It's to be living and enjoying your life, like here in Joshua Tree, enjoying your pets, enjoying your life. It's not about fucking stressing out about my next meal or feeding my cats or paying for pet insurance. That shit is so stupid. You know what I'm saying? Like rent, groceries, maintaining a social life without going broke. That is one of the big things. Is like, I feel like I can't even go get a drink or go get dinner with my friends without stressing out about how that's going to affect me financially and affect my budget for the next 2 weeks. I remember a couple months back, my friend, she gets money. She is, ooh, Venus, girl, you gotta be careful. That is staying in for sure. I have a friend who, she's getting money. She was like, hey, do you want to come to dinner with me? When she had asked me to go out for dinner, I had just spent a lot of my budget on Gwenny, because I just did a Gwenny event and I bought like wine and charcuterie stuff and snacks and the tableware, and I was at the end of my budget, and I just did it balls to the wall because I was like, I really want to do this and I need to do this, and it's okay if I'm broke for the next week because I just know that I need to fulfill this creative need because I'm feeling so unfulfilled at work, and we'll get into that as well. But she asked me out for dinner and I was like, you know what, I can't do this. I let her know. I was like, thank you for inviting me and I really want to go out to dinner with you some other time. I just can't do it right now. I have other priorities than spending $50-$60 on a meal that I actually can't even eat right now because I can't eat dairy. And there's just other things that I'm thinking about. It's not that I don't want to spend time. It's just like I have other priorities. And I think that's one of the big things about the intersection of finances and friendships and social life. That's a crazy thing that you have to deal with at this age and at this stage of adulting. It's kind of where you start to see the people that actually fuck with you and the people that understand where you're coming from. But also, it's all about communication too. That's just kind of a little example of navigating that, how I'm navigating that, and how I'm sure a lot of us young people are navigating things like that right now too. I wanted to jump back into the discussion of career burnout. 2024, I experienced the craziest depression I've never fully been in a state of depression. I think we all as humans can feel the emotions of depression and anxiety, but I don't think I've ever experienced a functioning state of depression and anxiety before in my life. 2024 was just that year of functioning depression. I was going through a lot of things. 2023 was also a crazy year for me. I think just like the combination of those 2 years, 2024 was just kind of like when I've had enough. I had been working at my full-time job. I was feeling that time wrapping up feeling of like, damn, I've been at this job for almost 3 years now and I feel so unfulfilled and so unappreciated and so undervalued and kind of disrespected as well. No, not kind of, and disrespected. I just need to get out. I need to do something for myself. And throughout both years, 2023 and 2024, I tried my best to do projects outside of work to fulfill myself and things to keep myself going. I just couldn't find the energy. I couldn't find the motivation. And I think that's what we call burnout, career burnout. That was the first time in 2024 that I felt I was in a state of functional depression and anxiety, not socializing as much. Definitely 2023 was my year of isolation. But by the end of 2024, just burnt the fuck out. I'm ready to just not really be in this creative field in this way. I want to work with people that love what they do, that want to actually be a team and work together and hear each other's points and value each other's skills and efforts, authentically and truthfully and honorably. And I feel like the only way I'm going to do that is by removing myself and make my own. Career burnout is not fun. I lost my passion for everything. Some of you that may know me from doing YouTube when I was 11 years old, 13, 16 years old, doing little shorts and whatnot, I've always had a passion for filmmaking, right? Going into this job in 2022, I was like, oh shit, like this is lit as fuck. I'm working for one of the biggest of all time. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I thought it was going to be great. I was like, I'm going to be learning so much from these people that are older than me and more experienced than me. The first year was hard. It was interesting. I definitely got to see people puffing up their chests, but it wasn't as bad as the following 2 years to come. And I would say the last year, 2024, was the worst year working this job I have ever experienced in my life. I don't know what more I can say. I can't really say more about that. It made me fall out of love with filmmaking. It made me fall out of love with creating. It made me fall out of love with doing anything in the creative field at all. So trying to do stuff outside of work just wasn't happening. I just felt so depressed. I mean, like, I'm finally starting to come out of it because I'm starting to realize that instead of spending time sulking and feeling sad and depressed about shit that I can't control, I need to be turning that energy towards myself, because I am the only one that can make myself happy, and I am the only one that can change the trajectory of my life. I realized that September of last year, because I fully drove myself chronically into TikTok. I just got super into TikTok. I found my comfort creators like Avery Woods and Emily Kaiser. I got into Monet McMichael. I got into Clark. I got into my fam again. I used to watch her YouTube videos like when I was a kid, researching Black creators and running and exercise like Ore's running TikToks and health. And I was like, this is so fucking cool. And these people are dealing with similar things that I'm dealing with, but they're taking it out on their passions and they're driving it into something productive. I took that as such inspiration. Avery Woods, for example, she's a big inspiration to me, especially for podcasting, because she always talks about how she literally was on EBT and was raising children at 19, 20 years old. She was in fucking Brokeville, just trying to figure it the fuck out. She just drove all of that fucking anger and frustration, survival mode into her social media, and didn't even really know that what she was doing in the beginning, until she started making money, and she was like, oh, this is what my purpose is. I'm so grateful to finally be coming out of that and finally turning back into myself and my spirituality. And we can talk about spirituality on another episode, but I would say just really quickly, when I was in college, 2019, towards the end of college, right before the pandemic hit, I was super into astrology, got super into spiritualism, got super into tarot cards. I really drove into myself and my inner goddess and my inner spirituality. And I started to manifest like crazy. Even this Airbnb that I'm shooting in, for those of you watching the video, me sitting in this Airbnb, I manifested. I literally made a deck for how I wanted to shoot the first episode of Gwenny. It actually wasn't even going to be a podcast. It was just going to be a trailer for Gwenny. I wanted it to be like this. I wanted the robe. I wanted the towel on my head. When I got to this Airbnb, I was like, wait, this kind of looks like something I put in my deck for how I wanted to shoot Gwenny. Then I come into the room and I see hanging up in the closet are two white robes and white slippers. And then in the bathroom, white towels. And I was like, wait, this is exactly what I need to shoot Gwenny. I just look around the Airbnb and I'm like, this looks like where I'm about to shoot Gwenny. Like, you know what I mean? And I was like, whoa, what the fuck? I literally manifested this. But it's like the timing. Like, God was like, you need to get out of this fucking city that's driving you insane. You need to do this, And I'm gonna cry. Oh my God, I'm gonna cry. You need to do this because you're fucking struggling right now, and it's for shit that you can't really control career-wise, but you need to do something that brings you back into yourself. You're so distracted by all this Hollywood nonsense, the chaos and the stress of living in Hollywood, living in this big, crazy, chaotic city, and you need to get out. And I am so blessed and grateful for my parents that support me, my amazing partner, boyfriend who supports me. I want to say husband, but ring's not here yet. I'm just so grateful because I remember this feeling. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember this feeling of like alignment. Oh my God, I'm crying. Because it's what I felt when I was in college, sitting in my room with no money, with no friends. I had just lost two of my girlfriends that I thought were going to be like my friends forever. I had just lost them. and I was in another depressive mode. I wasn't as down as I was last year in 2024, but I was probably like my first ever state of, somewhat feeling depressed because I had just lost two friends. I was betrayed by two friends that I thought were going to be my friends forever. And then I got into spirituality and astrology for the first time on my own, and I was manifesting, and being here right now, I remember that feeling. And I thought, last year in 2024, I thought I was never going to feel that ever again. So fuck career burnout, but also shout out to career burnout because it led me to where I'm sitting right now and kind of into like a career pivot in a way. I never really considered doing a podcast like seriously. I always thought about it for my other kind of project, Artful Minds Only. I thought about doing a podcast for that, but then I was like, I don't know if podcast is really what I want to do. Podcasts, I feel like, are a little bit more planned and sit down, and you have a little bit more of a direct intention for what you want to talk about, which is why I think it makes sense for Gwenny, because there's a lot of things that I want to do intentionally with Gwenny, specifically, I should say, because intention is with everything I do, but specific to things I want to plan out for Gwenny, So I think a podcast makes sense, but it's kind of like a pivot of careers. And even going back into the creative thing and me working full time in creative, I kind of don't want to do that anymore either. Like, I don't want to put my creative for sale, expediting creative things to make a sale. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to do that shit. It's not fun. And it makes you just feel like a fucking robot, to be real. I don't like it. I think it's okay to take a step back, assess how to channel your abilities in other ways, channel your magic in other ways, consider pivoting a career. I think that this is a career in itself. I might not be working under somebody that's paying me an annual contract of money, but I am starting a new career with this podcasting and with social media. It's been fun and it's been fulfilling, and with TikTok, for example, I got super into book talk and the fantasy book series Fourth Wing, and I started making memes and videos about Fourth Wing. It really shot through the roof my engagement now. Like, I'm getting like 20 to 40, 50 followers a day because my memes about Fourth Wing are just consistently charting with views and engagement alone, like only those couple videos alone versus my hundreds of videos that I've been posting. Consistency is key, but you want to be intentional with that consistency, and you want to be intentional with the quality of the work that you're putting out. And I think I had to learn that, and now I'm finally figuring out my flow. But I'm so grateful for that. Another thing is redefining success. Society right now, and especially my peers that are older than me in their 30s, are like, girl, you need to get it together. Or not you need to get it together, but girl, you need to consider how, because by 30, you want to have a house. You want to have your savings charted up. You want to have this. You want to have traveled. And I'm like, everyone's life is different. I had a lot of older peers just kind of like putting that in my ear, and I never really took it to heart because I already understand that everyone has their own life, but it's just like people are projecting their own insecurities as a grown-ass adult on you as a younger person, slightly younger person, not even that younger by that much, which is the funny part. And everyone's obsessed with age. Like, everyone about to be 30, 2, 3, 4 years older than me are like obsessed with age. Oh my God, I'm gonna be 30. It's so old. And y'all are aging yourselves by saying you're old. You're not fucking old. You're actually the youngest you'll ever be in your life. Why not think about it that way? I'm about to just start normalizing walking away mid-sentence. Like, as soon as you start to utter out the words of negativity, I'm literally just gonna walk away because I don't have time for that shit anymore. Unless it's a healthy conversation about how you can grow from that and, find your solutions, I'm not about to sit here and listen to you complain. Make a podcast, bitch, because that's what the fuck I'm doing. I'm doing it in a healthy way. We're talking about it, we're getting through it, we're moving on. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the type of time. Guys, sorry, if I sound mucusy, it's because of those fucking LA fires and the smoke, and it's all coming out because I'm now breathing fresh air and my body is less stressed, so it's coming the fuck out now. Okay, so I think we ended off before I went to go like blow my nose and get myself together was celebrating the small wins. One thing I learned, I was saying in therapy last year, my therapist was just like, you're in your own apartment, figuring out life as a single woman meaning like unmarried woman independently, you need to celebrate that. Like, that's a huge accomplishment in LA too. And she's like, you've worked very hard to get to where you are. You made a lot of connections. You've done a lot of great things, a lot of great projects, working for a huge artist and brands. You know, you got to celebrate that. You got to be proud of yourself for that. She's so freaking right. I do have to be proud of myself for that. That's one thing I've also been doing, is just practicing gratitude and just being very grateful for all of those things and all of my accomplishments. And I think one of the things that we get so blinded by is that, you know what I mean? We get so distracted by the stress of having it all together, and we forget to pat ourselves on the back and congratulate ourselves. One of the things that also kind of clouds that is, you see a lot of people buying themselves, like, I bought myself a Louis Vuitton bag or a Gucci bag or a Goyard bag, or bought myself a car because I've been working so hard. And people celebrate their accomplishments. Well, that's great for them. They celebrate their accomplishments with material things. And I think one of the things that kind of also makes us feel like, well, fuck, I worked this hard, but I can't even afford to buy myself a car. That's not success. You know, we measure our rewards with materialistic things. And I think that is something that I kind of got in my head about, especially living in Hollywood and seeing people with all their fancy things and fancy dinners. I'm like, damn, well, I need to do that too. Like, that's how you measure success, right? Rather than just simply practicing gratitude and just sitting in a room in your silence, letting your brain process all the great and beautiful, all the great and beautiful, amazing things, not just your successes and accomplishments, but the fact that you have a support system like your family, your friends, your pets. I do have a car. My car is in great condition, in great shape. It might not be a fucking Rolls Royce, but it's my Rolls Royce. You know what I'm saying? That shit gets me from point A to point B and then some. Processing those things as accomplishments, successes, and security. Gratitude. That's gratitude. Thanking God and thanking yourself for getting yourself this far is success. That's something that I had to remind myself and process for myself. Regardless of how much money I have, regardless of how many friends I have, remember to practice the small wins. That's always something that we all need to remember. Now let's talk about the balancing act of being in a relationship, managing work, and still finding time for yourself. Honestly, it feels like trying to juggle 3 flaming swords at the same time. 3 of swords, hey, if you know, you know. Balancing communication and dating yourself. Those are 3 different things. Wow, oh my God. A lot of us feel the balancing act of wanting to give your all into yourself, wanting to give your all into your career, showing up for your partner, showing up for your friends, and still having the energy to do your skincare routine at night and freaking entertain your pets in the midst of it all. It's wild. It's a lot. It's a lot. Being an adult is a lot. I remember being a kid and being, I want to grow up so I can just go drive a car and do it and drive to the park. You know what I'm saying? Go to Disneyland or some shit. Being an adult is crazy. Being an adult is a lot. Okay? Being an adult is a lot. And I think we all know that, but it's like, damn. When you start listing the shit out, it's like, damn. You know, you start to have a little bit more empathy for everybody and just getting it all together. One thing I think I had to learn time and time again is communication. Okay, in college, I learned a lot about communication. I learned a lot about communication with my friends, with my college roommates, and I was not very good at it at all. I, was a part of a lot of drama, was a part of a lot of trauma, whether that was self-inflicted or other people pulling me into their trauma. And communication was the biggest part of it all. We can get into that. We can talk about relationships and friendships in a whole other episode if you guys want, because I have a lot of stories. I have a whole lot of stories. It's important to communicate on big things and small things, whether it's, can I have some time to myself today? Or, you know what, guys, I don't really feel like hanging out anymore. I just need some time to myself. Or life goals like, I'm tired of being so negative and depressed. Like, I want to freaking flip the script on my whole entire life. Whatever it is, talk about it. As humans, we need to talk and we need to share and we need to express and we need to be aware of how we affect other people. That's something that I had to learn time and time again. Basically, the last 10 minutes of the episode, I was filming, my camera died because I'm using really old batteries. Can't use the footage, it's in a corrupted file. Tried to fix it, it doesn't work. So this all goes into mindset, right? Kind of the things that we were talking about. Technical difficulties. In another world, maybe even last year, I would have been so upset and probably thrown a fit that this is happening and that I can't get this freaking episode done and correctly, right? Because I'm having these technical difficulties, but I'm like, girl, like, it's not a big deal if the last 10 minutes of your episode, there's no video. Like, people are listening to the podcast. That's the whole point of a podcast. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's your first episode. I'm a one-woman show. I have room for improvement. Old me would have literally, it would have been Armageddon up in here. And I feel that under my skin. I feel her stress under my skin, but I'm trying to keep her calm because it's not the end of the world. We're fine. When the camera cut out, I was talking about self-care and being in a relationship and the kind of intersectionality between individuality and dating and caring for your partner. When I first got into my relationship with my boyfriend, it was really fresh and new and fun and exciting. I kind of became super codependent on him because I was headed into a very dark, depressing stage of my life. And because of certain things that happened in the beginning of our relationship, between the two of us, crazy wild shit happened that I'll feel more comfortable explaining later down the road. You know, that shit really affected me because of the situation. It led me to be even more codependent on him, and I was already headed into like a hermit stage of my life, and I wasn't really socializing. I wasn't really hanging out with friends. I wasn't trying to make new friends. I was kind of starting to feel the effects of my unfulfilled feelings at work. So, I became a little bit of a hermit and I became super codependent on him, becoming heavily reliant on him for my sociability, becoming heavily reliant on him for my happiness, you know what I'm saying? And like not taking responsibility for my own happiness and kind of just complaining a lot of just like real standard codependent depressive era beginnings of that stage of my life, right? 2024, it was my year of processing. I did therapy at the beginning of 2024. It kind of allowed me to gain some perspective on the things that I was doing in my life and in my relationship that caused me to drive myself into a depressive era and become so codependent on my partner. It just allowed me to reflect on myself. And that's why I'm so grateful for that short time that I was in therapy, because I learned a lot in so little time. And my therapist was even like, your progress is kind of crazy. Like most of my clients, especially for people that are first starting therapy, they don't really grasp the concepts as quickly as you do. Not to like compare me or anything. I credit my parents to that, especially my dad, because he's always been someone who's taught me the importance of seeing yourself, and he always says know thyself. And so even if I didn't understand what that means as a child growing up, it was something that I always had in the back of my head. And I think as I grew older, especially now, with my year of processing, I understand what it means to know thyself and to be aware of yourself. I really was able to kind of embrace that these past couple years, and I'm so grateful for that. So grateful for that growth. And because of that, I learned the importance of individuality, not only in relationships, but setting boundaries, whether that's work or just making sure that you're okay as a person before your relationships, before you're dating, before your families. Before you give yourself to things outside of yourself, you need to make sure your individual, your person is okay and is solid and is progressing. That's kind of what I learned is like embracing your individuality throughout the different aspects of your life and the different phases of your life, and making sure you're allowing time to process those stages of your life. And like I said, again, 2024 was my year of processing. What I mean by year of processing, not only the depression and the codependency, it was like my year of processing the fact that I'm an adult now and I'm in a completely new chapter of my life. I'm in a completely new stage. I got my first apartment in 2023 and I'm just moving through the motions and going. And I never allowed myself to process, and I already talked about this in Embracing the Small Wins. I didn't allow myself to process that I'm an adult. I have adult responsibilities. I have a new adult life, and I got my first apartment all by myself. And I just was going through the motions and not acknowledging myself through that stage. You know, once I started to become more aware of that, especially now, I have so much more gratitude for the process and phases of life and the things that I was growing through, even though it was probably one of the most, thanks Venus, probably one of the most, she just crawled all over my laptop. Even though it was probably the darkest my life has ever been, there was a phase last year in 2024 that I remember, and I was like, can I just like be by myself for like a week? Like, I don't call, text, like, you guys don't hear from me. You don't hear from me at all. Like, don't call me. I just want to like self-isolate for a week. And my boyfriend was like, you're not about to like go away, because he knew I was in a dark phase. He knew I was in a really deep dark mindset. So he was like, you can be, isolated, but just check in, say, hey, hi, hello, and, go about your day. But you're not about to just ghost us and just be like meeting friends and family and just like not say anything for a whole week. Like, you're not about to do that to yourself, because he understood how critical my mental health was, the condition. And he was like, girl, no, you're not about to just, and I love him for that, honestly. And honestly, I tried for a couple of days and I couldn't even do that for myself, because it's so crazy being in that mindset. It's like being restless, but also stagnant, just the anxiety. I don't wish that on my worst enemy. Just mental health is just not fun when you don't know what it is, and when you don't know how to deal with it, and when you don't know how long it's going to be affecting you at such an aggressive level. You have to embrace the people in your life. And I was saying before my camera cut out, that 2023 into 2024, I didn't have a lot of friends. I wasn't talking to my family that often. It was just me, my cats, and my boyfriend. Yeah, I was just like hermit. I think it was important for my life and for my transformation, kind of like a cocoon. I had to just be in that hibernation and just think about my life. Think about, how the fuck did I get here? I'm living in LA. I'm living a lot of people's dreams, but why do I not feel excited about it? Why do I not feel gratitude? Why do I feel like this shit is just happening to me and I have no place in it, even though I manifested it? It was just layers and layers and layers. I had to peel back and just understand that phase, no matter where I was in my life, no matter what chapter I was in my life, it's gonna happen. You have to go into that cocoon. You have to kind of go through the motions of letting go of your old self and shedding that off. I think that's really what that was at the end of the day. It was just shedding off old parts of myself and parts of myself that I no longer aligned with and no longer understood. Oh my God, my phone is just going off. And no longer understood anymore. And that's okay. It's kind of sad, but that's okay. And that's natural. Now, with my relationship with my boyfriend, when I realized how codependent I was, especially learning that in therapy, she was like, girl, you say you want to do all these things like social media and yada, yada, yada. And we can even do a whole episode on therapy and mental health too, because I don't want to digress too much from the points that we're making here. There was a point in our relationship where we both, I don't even know, it was like a switch went off and we both just deep dived into our own creative journeys, because my boyfriend is also a creative. He's a creative director. We both just like deep dived into our passions and into our creative, and just allowed us to kind of get out of our codependency rut. My boyfriend just got a new camera and he's so excited, and he's been shooting so much, and that was just like inspiring for me. And the switch went off inside of myself, and I was like, wait, like the things I want to do with Gwenny are very big. I've always been super ambitious. I've always been a very ambitious person. I don't have a lot of money to do the big budget things. So I was like, I think my cat just farted. Oh my God. I don't have the money to do the big budget things like the beauty line or the wellness line or like, creating product and stuff. So let's just focus on the community aspect of the brand. And that's what led me into considering doing a podcast. And I'm such a big fan of like Avery Woods and the Cheers podcast. And of course, Call Her Daddy, Everything Goes with Emma Chamberlain. What the fuck? Like, why don't I do a podcast? I love to talk. I love to yap. I always find myself making super long edits for TikTok that, people are not going to watch. So why don't I turn back into podcasting and YouTube? Never done a podcast before. Other than, I actually remembered I did do a podcast series in my internship. Shout out to Baycat. My internship back in 2020 during the pandemic, I did do a podcast and I really did enjoy it. And they encouraged me. They're like, you would actually be really good for podcasting. It's all about going back into the things that you were doing when you were creatively tapped in and passionate. That's really where individuality comes from as well. What lights the fire under your ass? What makes you excited about yourself and your self-care? Because we turned back into our creative selves, personally, I got out of that codependency. I realized we were growing as individuals again. And I think that was the most pivotal point in our relationship. It kind of added some spark back into our connection. It made me realize that we're some really dope individuals. And why are we limiting ourselves by being super codependent when we know we're always going to be there for each other? And so let's just do our own things. And let's love that. Let's love that too. I want to talk more about relationships maybe in another episode, especially female relationships. I want to talk about how female friendships really affected me and how I view friendships as an adult now. And maybe we'll do a Q&A episode, like a friendship relationships episode, to kind of end the episode leaning more into self-care. I want to talk about health and internal health, right? Because that is the most important thing. The one thing that you have to prioritize in this life is your health. It's okay to acknowledge that you don't have to have it all figured out. It's important to acknowledge how things affect us. Slowly, one thing at a time, build ourselves up while we're acknowledging and processing the many different aspects of our life and our health. It's a crazy balancing act. Try to balance it all. Trying to balance friendships, dating, career, hustling, internal health, mental health, physical health, families, pets, bills, utilities, insurance, like adulting, coming into your adulthood, processing that. It's a balancing act. But one thing you have to prioritize is your health, your internal health, your physical health, and your mental health. Because without that, you can't do it all. You can't do anything. Last year, my health was so bad. I was binge eating late at night. I mean, I still kind of do that, but I've been better at it. Ordering DoorDash, not cooking my own food, eating a lot of processed sugar more frequently than I realized. I struggle with acne too. Towards the end of 2023, I started seeing my esthetician. When I was first going to see him, he does this thing where he gives his clients a homework for clients, where he basically has a note that he airdrops you with all these things that you need to get checked. Whether that's hormones, whether that's certain vitamins that you need to be taking, like chlorophyll, collagen, your multivitamins, your CMOS, your probiotics, your whatever. He has a whole list of things that you should check and look into, things that you need to do to better your internal health, because he's a big holistic esthetician that focuses largely on internal health and physical health, because that largely affects your skin. Learned a lot from him, and because of him, I got this hormone test. He recommended Everly Well women's hormone tests, And so I tested my hormones. I learned that pretty much everything was normal and stable except for my testosterone levels. And lately I feel like I've had low libido. And I'm like, what the fuck's going on? Because I'm 26. I feel like I should be in my prime when it comes to my libido right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is like when your body's like, you need to be having children. Like, this is like when you're like, this is like when your baby fever is at an all-time high, especially now that you're headed out of your second phase of puberty, quote unquote, because, you know, they always say women have their second phase of puberty around the age of 25. So I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And maybe that's a part of that too, right? So I talked to my primary care doctor about my hormone test, and she was like, yeah, no, everything looks pretty normal. Your testosterone levels, they might be low right now, but testosterone is contingent upon many different things. It's not just like one thing that could be affecting it. It could be your diet. It could be not getting enough sleep. It could be not exercising. It could be stress levels. It could be a lot of different things. That's just hormones in general, right? So she was like, before you drive yourself crazy about it, let's go back to the basics and let's do a full blood panel. Your cholesterol, your hemoglobin, which is your blood sugar, cortisol, all of that. Did that. What came back was everything was pretty much in the normal except for my blood sugar. My blood sugar came up as pretty high, and so she deemed me pre-diabetic. And so with pre-diabetic, that is also part of stress. And one thing about it is my job, my full-time job, has stressed me the fuck out, honey. That has spiked my cortisol levels higher than the freaking sky. And I have never been more stressed and more in a state of survival in my entire life. And it is largely due to my job, inflicting that upon myself due to coming into my adulthood as well. So it's a really cynical concoction of stress, like a stress cocktail, if you will. And so she was like, you know, in order to manage your stress levels and your blood sugar, you need to start cooking more often and you need to exercise. One of the big things to basically cure or just bring down your blood sugar is exercise. And in all the research I've found about blood sugar, that is the one thing that everyone talks about, is like eating more whole, raw vegetables and cooked vegetables and controlling what you're putting into your food and your diet. But exercising is a big thing. If you find yourself struggling with your mental health and your physical health, before you start to stress yourself out, before you even consider even therapy, because therapy is expensive and not everyone has access to therapy or can afford to pay, focus on the basics and the variables that you can control, like exercise, eating properly, your diet, and maybe getting your blood tested, things like that. Just to give yourself a starting point. Assess the basics before you're like, oh my God, I need a therapist. Oh my God, I need to see this, do the blah. Because I drove myself crazy in that health aspect of my life because I thought I needed a therapist, which I, you know, shout out to my therapist at the time that I was doing therapy. I love that. Could have largely benefited by just acknowledging the basics of my health to begin with. I also recently saw a dermatologist, a female dermatologist that I thought was going to advocate for me. She was not a Black dermatologist, so that says a lot there too. For my acne, because I'm like, girl, I don't know what's going on, and like I couldn't afford to see Ronnie, so I was like, maybe I can just go see her and she can help me with some topical medication, right? I was also dermaplaning, shaving my skin, and I had stopped doing laser because I thought the laser was ruining my skin, which I think it was because of the girl that I was seeing. I don't think she was like, I would go see her and she would be like, so yeah, what level were we at last time? And it was just becoming so not thorough. And I was like, fuck this laser shit. Like, maybe I just need to shave my face. Maybe I need to do dermaplaning. Even though when I was seeing Ronnie months and months and months prior to me making that decision, he was like, you need to not do that. That's going to fuck your skin texture up. It's going to fuck your skin up and it's going to make you have more acne. And that's what happened. So then I saw a dermatologist a couple months back, and she prescribed me with some topical medication that did clear up, like antibiotics that did help clear up bacteria that was being caused from me dermaplaning. But then she also prescribed me adapalene, which is a retinol. That I feel like fucked my skin up even more, which is normal. But then it was like 3 months in and that shit wasn't doing anything. So I stopped doing that and I focused on my diet and what I was eating, and that's helped largely. I also started using Green Machine, this vitamin C by In Beauty Project, and that's helped with the hyperpigmentation and somewhat the texture. But I really, really, really need to go get a chemical peel. Like, I digress. I really just need to go get a chemical peel and go back to getting facials, because one thing about it, when I was seeing my esthetician, the facials, I got, I think, 3 facials from him in total within like a 3-month period, and that shit was helping my skin. But one thing about Ronnie is that he books up fast, and if you're not booking your appointments like twice at a time, you're not going to see him for another 6 months to a year, sweetie, because he is in high demand. I need him to figure out how to duplicate himself, because I need to see him like immediately. I literally can't, because he's the GOAT, and he changed my life for that short amount of time that I saw him. Not only because of the treatments, but because of all that I learned from him. Being so knowledgeable about black skin and about health and internal health in general, I learned so much from him. And it all came back to Ronnie. All the things that I did outside of Ronnie, it all came back to Ronnie. You know what I'm saying? That's so funny. Yeah, guys, like, that's literally all I can say about self-care. Going back to the basics, you don't have to feel so pressured by these wellness trends that TikTok and Instagram tries to freaking shove down our throats. Like, it's not about the new skincare product. It's not about having a 25-step skincare beauty routine. You know what it is about? It is about Korean beauty, though. I love Korean skincare because that shit is like clean skincare, and my skin loves clean beauty. So that's one thing that I do love about the wellness trends. But you don't need to fucking buy all the products. You don't need to do everything. You need to just focus on the basics. Focus on your diet, what you're eating, your exercise, and your mental health, and spending time in the sun, which is what I need to do after this. You need to spend time in the sun, and you need to spend time treating yourself to self-care, reading, writing, journaling. I've been writing a lot. I've been getting back into things that made me happy as a kid, which is writing and my creative passions. And I think those are the basics that you need to start with when it comes to your self-care and your mental health. And manifestation. When you come back into yourself and your spirituality as well, and that's a whole other episode that we can do too, but when you come into yourself as a person and your inner god and goddess, you start manifesting, and you start to be aligned with yourself and your life and your life's purpose. That's such a beautiful thing. A few things that I learned in 2024 is to process the importance of self-care and inner health and health. I learned the importance of coming back into yourself as an individual and loving yourself as a creative, and the things that makes you happy and the things that brings you joy. It's important to set boundaries for yourself, that it's okay to self-isolate. It's okay to not have to be in the social scene and embrace the FOMO. You don't have to be all up in the scene. You can be by yourself. It's important to embrace the people that love you and support you and that have been with you through it all. Embrace yourself. Embrace yourself as a person and love yourself. Love yourself. All 2025, if you haven't learned that lesson yet, embrace yourself, sweetie. That is the biggest lesson of all. I'm excited for 2025. I'm excited for this podcast and just driving myself into my creative. I've been writing. I want to write a fantasy book, guys. I want to develop this podcast in the Gwenny community. I want to shoot some creative projects for my other project, Artful Minds Only, and where I kind of do my independent film projects. I'm just keeping it light this year. I'm just going with the flow. I'm allowing myself to flow, setting those goals, but I'm not fucking beating myself up if I don't accomplish everything this year, because life is gonna happen. Even though I feel aligned right now, I'm preparing my mental that something might come up and something might shake shit up, and that's okay. And it's okay if things don't go as planned. And that's what I'm on for 2025. No fucks given 2025. I'm not letting judgments from other people and people outside of myself to affect me. It's fuck all of that, and it's no fucks given, and it's only about what I can control myself, and it's only about my own opinion of myself all 2025. And I encourage you guys all to think that way for yourselves as well. I want to ask you guys all to, in the comments, share your own experiences with some of the things that I discussed today. Maybe you have some things you learned about, you know, being in your mid-20s. Let's talk about it, guys. Let's discuss. Open the forum up to have that dialogue as a community, and maybe we have some tips and things that we learned from our 2023s and 2024s coming into 2025. I think that's a great and beautiful thing. Like, I love community. I love dialogue. I love discourse. So let's talk about it, guys. Let's share and let's help each other out. Thank you so much for tapping in Thank you so much for tapping into the Gwenny podcast, into episode 1. We made it. We're here. We're finally doing it. We're finally developing this project. Life's weird and that's okay. And we're embracing all of the different things. We're embracing the mess. We're embracing the chaos. We're celebrating the small wins. We're celebrating the huge wins. We're realizing that everyone is figuring it out too. Everyone is figuring it out, whether you're young or old or whatever. Thanks for hanging out. I'll catch you guys next week. Mwah! I love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I can't wait for this year, and I can't wait for all that's to come for the Gwenny podcast. Love you guys.